Good evening. Have a one time today. God is good and God is good all the time. My name is Erwin J. I'm here to give you word on today. Um, Now we're gonna talk about Jesus gonna be talking in parables of a hidden treasure in the parables. That gonna come from Matthew chapter 13, 44, verse 46. So this story is the kingdom of heaven. It's life treasure. That was hidden in a field. The kingdom of God is worth more, far more than anything else. So he comparing the kingdom of heaven like treasure, like pearls. So something that you just want to sacrifice for. Leave everything behind and just move forward towards that kingdom. The treasure and pearls. So the kingdom of heaven is like treasure hidden in a field. So when a man had found it, he hid it again. So when you find something that looks so valuable, you probably too scared to bring it home. This man found this treasure in this field. He didn't decide that he wanted to take it home. He decided, let me bury this here again. It looked too valuable for me to take it home. So he hid it again. And then in his joy, you know, he was so happy, full of joy when he found this treasure. He hid it again. And guess what he did? Then he went home. He sold everything to come back and buy that whole field. So why go and get the treasure when you can buy the whole field and find out if they got more treasure in it? So he decided I'm gonna bury it again. He realized how valuable this treasure is that he found on this field. So he decided to go home and sell everything, sacrifice everything, to go back and buy the whole field. So the precious owner had died without letting anyone know that they was there. So the owner must have forgot they had the treasure in the field. They hadn't died and the treasure was still there. So anyone knows, that they were still there, but Jesus uses this. Jesus know about this man that died in this field. So Jesus used this as an idea to describe the kingdom of heaven. So Jesus know how to take any situation, and take it. And because all of our situation is a story that's supposed to always lead back to the kingdom of heaven. So Jesus used this situation, to describe the kingdom of heaven. And that's how he was in his teaching and trying to get people to learn and take everything in what he's saying. He take anything, he always describe it and lead it back to the kingdom of heaven. So long as that treasure had remained, buried, it was considered part of the field. Even though these people died, but it still was a part of that field. So that's why he went home and sold everything so he could buy the whole field. He didn't want just get the treasure. He wanted the whole field because you never know if they got more treasure in the field somewhere else. So if he felt he could own the field, he can dig and find any more treasure that's in that field. So also so whoever buy this property of the land, also will be buying the treasure that was buried in that field that worth is so valuable. It's so valuable that he didn't even want to carry it home. He took and buried it right back in that field. And then he went home. So Christ's message is that the kingdom of heaven is worth trading for everything, a person owns in order to come into the possession of it. So when the man had found the treasure that was hidden in the field, he knew, it was valuable. He hid it again. See, when he found that treasure, he didn't know that treasure was valuable. It was so valuable that he didn't want to take a chance going, taking it home with him. He took it, hit it again. So he was full of joy, knowing that he had hit the lottery. He sold everything. He sold everything that he had and brought that field. Now he knew it was a good trade. He knew it was a good trade. So kingdom of heaven is like treasure. That's what Jesus is trying to say. You know, you know, every like way back then, they had used to show little clips of pictures and stuff. That heaven is so beautiful. I don't know who it was who went to heaven and came back down and told everybody how beautiful heaven is, but they say heaven is beautiful. It's a kingdom, of heaven that's it's like treasure, because if you a kingdom, that's the best thing you want to go at, So that's why they say kingdom of heaven is just like treasure. When your last day, what you want to be down here on the earth with the devil? Or you want to be up there in heaven, looking like treasure in pearls. So this is like this man, that sold everything, to claim it. And that's how some of us is. If you see something or you know something is worth it, or you know something with your name on it, you're gonna keep on fighting for it. You're gonna lose everything to try to claim what's yours. So Jesus' disciples, they had to do the same thing. Just like Jesus' disciples, they had to give up everything. They had to give up everything, to follow Jesus. To follow Jesus because they knew, something about this man. They knew something about this man that was value to follow him. For you to give up everything. When somebody, he had said, for y'all, I'm picking 12 disciples. And for y'all to follow me, you have to give up everything. See, this is the story that Jesus trying to say, the sacrifices that you have to do, for the kingdom of heaven. Just like he told his disciples, I'm picking 12 disciples. And for y'all to follow me, you got to give up everything. That's why that man went home. He sold everything. He sold everything to come back to claim what's going to be his. And see, that's the same thing Jesus told his disciples. To come follow me, you have to sacrifice. It's a whole life. People thinking a Christian, they thinking of being on a journey. They think all this stuff is easy. It's not easy. If you love God, if you love to go where he heading you to, it's a whole lot of sacrifices that you have to do. So Jesus had told them, so they have to, and one of them said, I have to bury my own father. He said, let the bury be buried himself. That means he had to sacrifice and leave his father there. He had to sacrifice to leave their wife, their furniture. They had to sacrifice to leave everything to move and follow Jesus. And see, that's what disturbs us. The kingdom of heaven. Were you willing to sacrifice? Sacrifice for the kingdom of heaven. So again, the kingdom of heaven, is like a merchant looking for fine pearls. Now, we just talk about the treasure. The treasure is the kingdom of heaven. Now, this two part of the story. Now we're talking about the pearls. The pearls. So God is the one who scattered the sun of the kingdom throughout the world. So as he tell us, he is the one who planted the mustard seed in the field. Throughout these parables, he is the one who is active in the midst of this age. So it is Jesus then who come as a merchant seeking for fine pearls. So that's what God did. So God is the one that planted Jesus in his field, the field which is this world. God planted him here, to seek people to come to him. And see, that's why Jesus had multiple caps on his head. That just came to me just now. It's not even on my paper. The Holy Spirit be working through me when I'm talking. So that's what it is. God had planted Jesus here on this earth, you know, to seek our pearls. The pearls is seeking our people, to come in. To Jesus seeking out much people is possible to turn them over to God. You know, and see, Jesus is that seed that God planted here on earth. You know, and the pearls is the people that Jesus is trying to reach out to. To gain many people is possible to turn them over to God. Help them to learn God's rules and regulation and everything that God has set here on this earth. So that was Jesus' job when he was sent here. And he also was sent here to save the world. So like I said, Jesus had multiple hats. He's the light of the world. He was that seed that God had planted down here, to save, get a lot of people hearts saved, to turn them over to God, help them to learn the rules that God has set down here on this earth. So God who planted the seed, which was Jesus, he planted down here, and Jesus is the merchant to seek out people, to help them to learn, the rules and regulation that God has set down. And for God, to seek, for the people to seek God, so, uh, when he had found one of the great value, you know, to what, had went away, and he sold everything. He sold everything, and he had brought it, So what he did, you know, listen to that word that Jesus preached, and for him to follow to kingdom of heaven, he had to go home and sacrifice everything, meaning he had to get rid of everything. He had to get rid of everything, and then he came back. He came back, to purchase everything, to claim everything. You see what I'm saying? In order for him to claim, he had to sacrifice. And see, that's what it was with the Israelites. When God had rescued the Israelites, they had to sacrifice something. They had to sacrifice their firstborn son, in order to enter into their promised land. So God always say you got to sacrifice something to get something. You know, you can't receive something without sacrificing something. So he sell it all to attain this extraordinary honor. Again, Jesus is saying that the kingdom of heaven is worth the cost of everything that we have in life. So that's what he said. That's why Jesus always says, stop accumulating stuff. Stop always praising of what you have. Because when your time comes, you cannot take it with you. Because where you're going is very valuable and treasure of where you're going. It weighs more than what's down here on this earth. So that's what he said. He said, don't worry about it, that you had to get rid of everything. You got to sacrifice. He said, because what's in heaven is way worse than down here on earth. So he's saying, Jesus is saying that the kingdom of heaven is worth the cost. It worth the cost of everything that you had to sacrifice for. So the treasure, in the pearls, of Jesus Christ. Of Jesus Christ. And we are the men who are seeking for them. So Jesus is seeking for us, to turn our heart over to God. So when we find him, we must sell all. That's what we have in order that we might. So Jesus is more valuable. And his disciples realized that when he had chose 12 disciples, they had to sacrifice to follow him. Once my daddy died, I got my wife and kids. You had to sacrifice, to follow, to go towards the kingdom of heaven. You had to sacrifice. They had to sacrifice leaving their wife and children at home. They had to sacrifice that the very dead. They had to sacrifice leaving a brand new living room set that did this work. They had to sacrifice everything to follow. Because what Jesus said is work. It will be the work of everything, for you to sacrifice it. That's what Jesus said. So when Jesus' disciple had realized, and when he picked his 12 disciples, it's something, this God chose. God have his chosen people that he chose. For some reason, you could just pick us and be like, well, she's weird. She's strange. And that's how what Jesus was. And that is not, none of the children is not ugly. Jesus was not ugly, but something about us, it is something different. So the disciples realized, it's just something different about him. He ordinary. It's just something about him that when he said move, they move and sacrifice. So Jesus' disciples realized that they realized that Jesus was valued, and they let go of everything. They let go of everything for the treasure in pearls that's in heaven. For them to follow Jesus, they had to sacrifice. Sacrifice for the treasure in pearls, which is the kingdom of heaven. So the pearls of a great price, the great value, of the kingdom of heaven. So treasure is worth every sacrifice, to the kingdom, of heaven for surpassing the price. So he said, so they're saying all the suffering that we're going through, all the sacrifices that we have to go through, that we have to let go, Jesus saying it's all worth, for the kingdom of heaven. He's saying it's all worth, so the merchant, whose job is to seek, pearls, you know, happen upon one of incredible value, and that's Jesus. Uh, Jesus, God had, Jesus is that seed that God had planted, but they called him the parables. Jesus always talking parables, so the job is to seek parables. Jesus' job is to seek people, happen upon one of incredible value. So he calling us value. So God think value of us. When people think we is nothing and say we low and say we is nothing, God think of us as value. He says seek the pearls, seek the people, that's happened upon one incredible value. So God always think that we are enough, that we are value. So we always have to think of ourselves as we are enough, that we are valued. Is that for us, me, I'm always getting talked about behind my back. But guess what? I still keep my head up high, because when you know who you are, when you don't have low self-esteem, when someone say you nothing, you say I am enough. When someone say you are low, that you it ain't gonna end up to nothing, you always say that you're a winner. Always say that you're more than a conqueror. Because your heavenly Father think that you are valued. So if our heavenly Father think we are enough and think that we value, we got to think that of ourselves. I keep walking my head up high, keep pressing my way through. You got to keep on looking up, because you got to love yourself. And I love, people think I don't love myself. I love myself. You got to love yourself. You got to think that you are valued. You got to think that you are enough. And you got to keep pressing your way through, and you got to claim what's yours. And don't stop. Keep on pressing your way through. Keep on trying to find them prayers. Keep on trying to find that treasure. Eventually, you're going to get to it. But to get to it, like Jesus said, sometimes you have to sacrifice. It's a lot of stuff I had to sacrifice. And still got to sacrifice. You got to sacrifice to move forward. The Israelite had to do it. When God had saved them, God said you got to sacrifice something, for the enter into the promised land. You got to sacrifice something for God to throw blessing at you. You see Abraham was willing to sacrifice his son. He was willing to sacrifice his son. And God was trying to see how far Abraham's faith was going to go. And when God had saw how his faith was, God said, I'm going to bless you into the overflow. I'm not only going to bless you, I'm going to bless the whole nation. The whole nation going to be blessed because of you, because of your faith. You were willing to sacrifice for something that you waited for a long time. That you waited for a long time. You was willing to sacrifice. You're willing to put it all behind the sacrifice to do the will of God. And God saw that he was raised the hand of God said, put your hand down. I saw how faithful you are. Because see, a lot of times God will test you to see how faithful you are to him. To see how faithful you are to receive the treasure, to receive the pearls, to receive the blessing that coming to you. So Abraham, God was so amazed with Abraham. God saw how much Abraham loved him. Love him. That's what he waited for a long time. He was willing to sacrifice. And God saw that you willing to sacrifice you prayed for so long for, you know, and God saw the willingness, the faith, the sacrifice, to will, to do the will for God. To enter that treasure in Paris. So God had blessed not only him, but God said everybody in the nation gonna be blessed because of you. So Jesus was that mercy. You know, he was that mercy was sitting down here to find pearls, to find us. To bring much as he can to God. To turn so many people over to God. To God. He was that seed that God sent down here. So that's the story of the treasure in the pearls. The treasure, was the kingdom of heaven. The pearls, with Jesus was that merchant that God sent down here, to locate so many pearls to turn them over to God. So that's all the story I have for you today. To be a person, to take, to do the will of God, to take, to do whatever you can to walk to your purpose, to get what you need to get to. It's going to take a lot of sacrifices. A lot of sacrifices. When that man found that pearls and he saw how valuable it is, once you enter into your journey, you see how valuable it is, and you see how important it is, you're going to do whatever it takes. Those pearls the treasure that he found, he saw how valuable it was. So he was willing to sacrifice everything. When he sacrificed everything, then he came back and told Jesus, okay, I'm ready. I'm ready. And then with the pearls, Jesus is that seeds that God had once to plant all over the sea, all over the nation, And so these people here, it's pearls. See, God think of us of pearls and jewelry and silver and gold. That's what God think of us. Precious pearls. So God wants Jesus to find his precious pearls. To have their heart, turn their heart over to him. Like he had Noah to do to Jonah. To Jonah to do to the people now. He wanted Jonah to go and turn their heart over to him. And that's the same thing Jesus said. Because see, in the Old Testament, they have no preacher. Didn't have nobody to preach over. So God had dropped that seed down here, to preach that word all over the nation. Preach that word all over the nation. And bring so many people's heart to God. Bring so many prayers to God. So that's all I have for you today. Y'all have a blessed and safe day. And I see y'all on the next video.